So imagine you're logging into your trading account, right? And you see, I don't know, $1 million sitting right there in your buying power.
Oh, yeah.
And the text is, it's bright green, it's flashing on your screen, and you just feel entirely secure, like you feel wealthy.
Right. You feel like you've made it.
Exactly. But what if I told you that that number is, well, a complete fiction? That a computer algorithm run by an entity you've never even met can legally and automatically just shrink that number to zero while you sleep,
Yeah.
completely wiping you out without the market ever actually hitting your strike price.
It's a terrifying scenario, honestly. But it is the mechanical reality of modern leveraged markets.
Yeah.
Because
Yeah.
we are so conditioned to just accept digital readouts as absolute truth,
Yeah.
especially when they confirm our own biases about our success.
For sure. So today we are looking at a really fascinating excerpt from a text called Wealth Visas Buying Power. And our mission for this deep dive is to basically tear down the illusions created by these modern trading platforms.
Oh.
We are going to uncover the brutal and honestly often hidden mechanics of how actual wealth is secured in these really high-risk environments.
And before we pull back the curtain on those mechanics, I really need to explicitly state a crucial disclaimer from our source material here.
Oh, right. Yes.
Yeah. This deep dive is strictly for educational and informational purposes. It is not financial advice.
Definitely not.
Right. Trading options and futures on margin carries a high level of risk. It isn't suitable for all investors, and past performance does not indicate future results.
Okay, let's unpack this. The very first concept the text introduces is something they call the Core Delusion.
Yeah, I love that term.
It's great, right? And it starts right there on the glass of the screen you're looking at. The source argues that the brokerage interface is fundamentally designed to lie to you.
Yeah, because the interface is, at its core, a psychological tool. When you open a modern brokerage app, the very first thing that dominates your visual field is usually this massive number.
Oh yeah, it takes up like half the screen.
Exactly. It's presented in a large, bold font right at the very top, and it's labeled Available Buying Power.
And it takes up a third of the real estate on your phone. It's impossible to ignore. Like, you open the app and boom, you're rich.
Right. The platform is intentionally tricking your brain into equating a line of credit with your actual net worth.
Right.
You look at that large number and the dopamine hits. You feel insulated. You feel safe.
Yeah, you feel like a genius.
But the text argues that you must break this psychological attachment immediately because that unrealized buying power is, it's nothing more than an algorithmic allowance.
An algorithmic allowance.
Yeah. It is entirely fictional until the moment a trade is closed, the risk is removed, and the funds actually clear into your account.
The text actually calls it monopoly money, which I think paints the perfect picture.
It really does.
I mean, it sounds exactly like going to an arcade, right? You rack up 1 million points on a pinball machine, and then you try to use those points to pay your mortgage.
Yeah. Try taking those tickets to the bank.
Right. The machine is flashing. It's ringing its bells. It tells you you're a high roller, but the real world says you're broke. You can't just hand your bank a high score.
No, you can't. You cannot use theoretical margin to fund your retirement. You can't use it to buy hard assets like a house or a car.
Or groceries.
Exactly. You certainly can't use it to pay for a 4-week sabbatical. That buying power exists strictly at the whim of the clearinghouse.
Okay, wait. I want to pause on that word for a second. Clearinghouse. Because that's a kind of the invisible hand here, isn't it?
It is. The clearinghouse is the entity that basically sits between buyers and sellers in the financial markets.
Okay.
They act as the ultimate guarantor of the trades. So if someone defaults, the clearinghouse is left holding the bag.
Got it. So they're taking on the systemic risk.
Right. And because they carry that systemic risk, they get to write the rules. They get to dictate exactly how much capital you need to hold to stay in the game.
But let me push back on this for a second, just to play devil's advocate.
Sure.
If the platform tells me I have this buying power, and it legitimately allows me to execute trades and collect real premium, why shouldn't I view it as an asset? I mean, it is a functional tool that generates real returns.
It is a functional tool.
No.
True. But mistaking the tool for the end product is what exposes you to catastrophic risk.
How so?
Well, think about ownership. You don't own that buying power. The clearinghouse owns it.
Oh, I see.
Yeah, and they're essentially letting you rent it under very strict dynamic conditions. The text emphasizes that realized cash is what actually matters.
Because it's yours.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Realized cash is sovereign. It acts as actual ammunition in your financial life.
Sovereign, meaning it is totally unencumbered. Like no one else has a claim on it. It answers to you, not to some algorithm's risk assessment.
Precisely. If you don't have a ruthless mechanical system in place to extract that theoretical margin out of the market and convert it into cleared sovereign cash,
Yeah.
you are not building wealth.
Yeah.
You are simply running up a high score on a server you do not own. The foundational quote here that dictates everything else we're going to discuss today is this: if you haven't extracted the capital from the market, you haven't earned it.
That is such a harsh reality check.
It is.
Because we get so attached to the digital representation of our success that we just forget to secure it in the physical world.
Absolutely.
And if we look at the source text, it transitions from this psychological trap right into the mechanical reality of why trusting that monopoly money is so incredibly dangerous.
Right. Because the danger lies in the architecture of the margin system itself.
Okay, walk me through that.
Since that buying power is just an algorithmic allowance, like we said, the broker and the clearinghouse can literally change the rules of the game while you are in the middle of playing it.
Okay, here's where it gets really interesting. The text introduces this concept called the span margin volatility trap.
Yes.
And to understand how this trap functions, we really have to look at the difference between standard Reg-T margin and span margin, because they are not the same at all.
Not at all. So standard Reg-T margin is what most retail investors are familiar with when they just buy standard stocks.
Right, like if I just log into my app and buy some shares of a tech company.
Exactly. It requires a fixed, predictable percentage of capital. Think of it kind of like putting a standard 50% down payment on a house.
Okay.
You know exactly what capital is required of you up front. And that underlying mathematical requirement doesn't just magically change from day to day just because the housing market gets a little shaky.
Right, it's static. If I buy $10,000 of stock, the broker requires me to hold $5,000 of my own cash.
Right.
And that equation is just locked in.
Exactly. It's locked.
Yeah.
Span margin, however, which is used heavily in futures and complex options trading, is an entirely different beast.
Yeah.
The text describes span margin as aggressively dynamic.
Aggressively dynamic. That sounds ominous.
It should. The metaphor they use is an elastic band. And the critical detail here is that the clearinghouse controlled the tension on that band.
Okay, let's dig into this elastic band idea, because the source talks about a liquidity mirage that happens in low volatility markets.
Mm-hmm.
How does this mirage actually trick people mechanically? Like, how does it work?
Well, we have to look at how span margin calculates risk. So unlike Reg-T, which is that flat percentage we just talked about,
Right.
span is essentially this massive stress testing algorithm. Think of it like a structural engineer constantly testing a bridge.
Okay.
Every single night, the clearinghouse runs your entire portfolio through an array of hypothetical disaster scenarios.
Wow. Every night.
Every night. They ask, what if the market drops 5% tomorrow? What if volatility doubles overnight?
So they're simulating the absolute worst case scenarios while I'm literally sleeping.
Constantly.
Yeah.
And if the market is currently experiencing very low volatility, meaning prices are stable, there's no panic in the air, the news cycle is super quiet,
Yeah.
the algorithm looks at those disaster simulations and determines that a sudden, violent market crash is highly improbable right now.
Okay, so it relaxes.
Exactly. It relaxes. So it requires you to hold very little capital in reserve.
And the text uses a very specific example here, which I want to get into. It mentions selling a 100 wide put vertical.
Right.
But wait, pause for a second. Before we get completely swallowed by Wall Street jargon here, what does a 100 wide put vertical actually look like for a regular trader?
That's fair. Let's strip away the jargon. Selling a put vertical is essentially acting like an insurance company.
Oh.
You are selling someone else a policy that pays out if a specific asset crashes in price.
Got it.
You collect a premium up front for taking on that risk. Now, if the crash never happens, you just keep the premium.
Just like regular insurance.
Exactly. And the 100 wide part of that phrase simply defines your maximum catastrophic loss.
Oh, I see.
Yeah, so if the asset goes completely to zero, the absolute most you would ever have to pay out on this policy is $10,000 per contract.
Okay, so my maximum theoretical risk on that trade is $10,000. In a static Reg-T world, I might have to lock up that whole 10 grand. But under span margin, during a quiet, low volatility market, what happens?
Well, during a quiet market, the span algorithm runs its nightly stress tests and says, well, the odds of a crash right now are microscopic.
Yeah.
So instead of requiring you to hold $10,000 in reserve, the broker might only require you to hold, say, $1,000 to put on that trade.
Which means the other $9,000 just gets added to my available buying power.
Exactly. And this is the liquidity mirage.
Oh, man.
Your required capital shrinks down, which means your available buying power expands massively. Your screen flashes that big green number.
And you feel rich.
Right. It creates a completely false sense of security, and that actively encourages you to put on more trades, to over-leverage your account, simply because the interface is telling you that you have all this extra room to operate.
But the text states very clearly that span margin is designed to protect the broker. It's not designed to protect the trader. It's not giving me leverage just to be generous.
Oh, not at all. It is optimizing capital efficiency entirely for the clearinghouse.
Right.
And this is the fatal flaw in trusting the interface. When that calm market suddenly turns chaotic.
Which it always does eventually.
Exactly. When a black swan event hits or some major economic news drops out of nowhere, something called implied volatility spikes.
Okay, implied volatility. That's essentially the market as expectation of future turbulence, right? It's like the fear gauge.
It is exactly the mathematical representation of fear. And when implied volatility spikes, the span algorithm instantly recalculates.
Oh, boy.
Yeah. The structural engineer looks at the bridge, sees a massive hurricane coming, and realizes the bridge is going to collapse.
So what happens?
The algorithm automatically, instantly expands the margin requirement to protect the clearinghouse from taking a loss.
Okay, so they raise the requirements for any new trades I want to put on, right? That makes sense.
No, they raise the requirements for the exact same positions you already hold.
Wait, hold on. So I can make a trade on a quiet Monday, and then the market panics on Thursday. The price of the asset doesn't even hit my strike price, meaning I haven't actually lost the trade on paper.
Right.
And I can still get completely wiped out just because the broker decided to move the goalposts. How is that even a functional system?
Well, it is highly functional for the broker because it ensures their survival at your expense.
Wow.
Think back to that put vertical example. You only needed $1,000 of capital to hold it on Monday, right?
Right.
But then Thursday arrives, the fear gauge explodes, and the span algorithm reacts instantly. Now, to hold that exact same position, the broker demands $7,000 of capital.
So the requirement can just quadruple overnight.
Or worse, it happens all the time.
And what happens to all that massive available buying power I thought I had? The big green number.
It evaporates instantaneously. The elastic band violently snaps back.
Wow.
That buying power vanishes precisely when you are under fire and need it the most.
That's terrifying.
And here's the trap. If you over-leveraged your account during that liquidity mirage, if you used up all your buying power on other trades because the screen told you it was totally safe to do so, you don't have the spare cash lying around to meet this sudden new $7,000 requirement.
Which triggers a margin call.
Exactly. You are forced into a margin call. And if you cannot deposit thousands of dollars of fresh cash immediately, the broker's computer system will automatically liquidate your position.
To just sell your stuff.
They will sell your assets at the current market price, which, during a panic, is literally the worst possible price.
Because everyone is selling.
Right. So they lock in massive permanent losses for you.
Yeah.
And to your point from earlier, this liquidation happens not because your trading thesis was wrong.
Right.
And not because the market breached your strike price. It happens purely because the broker unilaterally changed the capital requirements mid-trade to save themselves.
I mean, that is just wild. You're playing a game where the referee can just decide halfway through the match that the field is now twice as long.
Yep.
And if you can't run the extra distance instantly, you forfeit. You literally cannot trust a metric that shrinks exactly when you need it to act as a buffer.
No, you can't. And if we connect this to the bigger picture, it changes the entire paradigm of how we view these trading platforms.
It really does.
They are not neutral environments. The battlefield is fundamentally rigged to prioritize the survival of the house.
Yeah.
Your survival is totally secondary.
Okay, so if the battlefield is fundamentally rigged to protect the broker, then staying on that battlefield permanently is a guaranteed death sentence.
Guaranteed.
A sudden volatility spike will eventually happen, the span margin will expand, and if all your wealth is just sitting there in that account, you'll get crushed. So how do we survive this?
Well, this brings us to the core defensive mechanism outlined in the text. They call it the custodial firewall.
The custodial firewall.
Yeah. And the source states a very powerful maxim here. Wealth is not built on the battlefield. It is built in the fortress.
Built in the fortress. I love that.
Right, because securing the cash by closing a winning trade is only the first step.
Okay.
To survive over the long term, you have to build a structural, mechanical barrier between your active risk and your realized profits.
So you can't just leave it all in one bucket.
You absolutely cannot leave your profits sitting in the same account where you take the risks.
And the text outlines exactly how to build this. It requires a physical, unbreachable separation of capital across two entirely distinct environments, right?
Yes.
They call the first environment the engine, which is essentially account A.
Right. The engine is your active derivative trading account. That is the battlefield.
Okay.
Its singular purpose is to deploy high probability setups, absorb managed risk, and generate income.
So that's where the action is.
Exactly. You expect turbulence in the engine. You expect those margin fluctuations we talked about. You treat it as a hostile environment.
But then there is account B, which the text calls the vault.
Yeah. And the vault is the fortress. It is a physically separate, entirely disconnected compounding reservoir.
Separate as in, like, a different bank entirely.
Yes. It is held at a completely different financial institution. It cannot be linked to the same margin pool as the engine.
You know, it's like being at a casino.
Oh, that's a good way to look at it.
Right. The engine is the stack of chips you have sitting on the blackjack table.
Right.
You know those chips are at risk. You're actively playing them, and the dealer can take them on any given hand.
Very true.
But the vault is taking a handful of those chips, cashing them out at the cage, walking out to the parking lot, and literally locking the physical cash in the trunk of your car.
Yes.
You physically cannot bet it on the next hand, no matter how tempting it gets, or how desperate you feel trying to win back a loss.
That is the perfect analogy. The physical separation is non-negotiable. And the crucial element making this work is what the text calls intentional friction.
Intentional friction.
Right. As profits are realized in the engine, you must have a strict mechanical system where a non-negotiable percentage of those profits is systematically swept out of the trading account and into the vault.
Intentional friction. That's a brilliant phrase because, I mean, in technology and UI design today, we are completely obsessed with removing friction.
Oh, absolutely.
We want one-click buying. We want seamless integrations. We want instant ACH transfers. We just want to be able to move our money around with a single tap.
And that frictionless environment is exactly what gets retail traders killed.
Because it's too easy.
Right. When moving money back into an active trading account is too easy, human psychology guarantees you will eventually move it back in.
Oh, for sure.
You will experience a drawdown, you'll panic, and you'll transfer your life savings back to the broker to try and save a losing trade.
Or to meet that margin call on a terrible position.
Exactly.
So by moving the money to a completely separate institution, you introduce that intentional friction.
You do. Because it takes 2 to 3 business days for the ACH transfer to clear back into the brokerage, right?
Right.
You have to log into a totally different platform. You have to use different passwords.
It's annoying.
It is annoying. But that delay, that annoyance, is the architectural feature that saves you from your own emotional impulses during a market panic.
It slows you down.
The friction gives your rational brain time to catch up with your panicked brain.
Man, that is so smart. And once that cash hits the vault, the text says it is permanently removed from the risk of a span margin expansion.
Yes.
It is dead to the active trading system. I just love that phrasing. Dead to the active trading system.
It's true, though.
It literally cannot be touched by the broker's algorithm no matter how wild the market gets.
It is entirely shielded. And inside the vault, that cash isn't just sitting idle under a mattress, losing value to inflation.
Right. It's working for you.
Exactly. It is deployed into safe, yield-bearing instruments. The text mentions things like T-bills, ETFs, or broad index funds.
So it's still growing.
It sits there, and it compounds quietly and safely, entirely detached from the daily chaos and the leverage of the derivatives market.
Which is the ultimate guarantee of financial survival, really.
Absolutely.
Because, as the source points out, even if the engine experiences a catastrophic black swan market shock, say some huge global event happens, implied volatility goes through the roof, span margin requirements quintuple overnight, and your entire active trading account gets liquidated by the broker to zero.
Which is a nightmare, but...
Right. But your accumulated wealth in the vault remains totally untouched.
You survive to fight another day.
Yeah.
Your actual net worth isn't destroyed. Only your active risk capital took a hit.
Wow.
By prioritizing realized sovereign cash and forcing it behind that custodial firewall, you actually neutralize the broker's ultimate advantage.
They can't touch it.
They can change the rules of the battlefield all they want, but they cannot breach the walls of your fortress.
It's a complete paradigm shift.
It really is.
I mean, we started by looking at the psychological illusion of the screen. You know, that big, bold, available buying power number just freaking our dopamine receptors into feeling wealthy.
Right.
And then we dug into the actual mechanics of the span margin trap, where we saw how those stress testing algorithms can just expand your capital requirements overnight and wipe you out without the market even moving against your actual positions.
You go.
And finally, we explored the escape route, you know, the safety of the custodial firewall, and the immense power of intentional friction.
You are basically shifting from a reactive, emotionally driven mindset to a structural, engineered mindset.
I love that.
You stop trusting the digital interface provided by the counterparty, and you start trusting your own mechanical architecture.
And I think that's the real takeaway here for everyone listening. Even if you have never traded a futures contract in your life, right? Even if you don't even know what a put vertical is, the core principle is universal.
Absolutely.
Are you trusting a digital interface's version of your security? Or do you have a system of intentional friction in your own life to protect your real-world gains from sudden systemic shocks? So what does this all mean?
Well, I think if these highly sophisticated platforms are purposefully designed to gamify our finances and make a theoretical line of credit feel like actual sovereign wealth, we have to ask ourselves a broader question.
Yeah.
Where else in our digital lives are algorithmic allowances tricking us into feeling secure?
Oh, wow.
And what other invisible margin calls are waiting to snap shut on us when the environment suddenly changes?
That is a phenomenal question to leave off on. Next time you look at a screen and feel a sense of comfort from the numbers just shining back at you, maybe ask yourself who actually controls the tension on that elastic band. Thanks for joining us for this deep dive. We'll catch you on the next one.